Story 4. Adam.
Albuquerque Center, Southwest 783 is with you at flight level 340. Southwest 783, stand by.
Adam Werner, the Southwest Airlines captain, shrugged his shoulders. It wasn't unusual that air traffic controllers were too busy to acknowledge transmissions. Southwest Flight 783 left Dallas Love Field with only a 7-minute delay at 8:07 a.m. Central Daylight Saving Time on its way to Las Vegas Airport. Flight time was expected to be 2 hours and 25 minutes, and they expected to land there at 8:32 a.m. Pacific Time. The plane was currently flying over Lubbock, Texas, close to the New Mexico border. Flying was smooth at an altitude of 34,000 feet, and the seatbelt signs were off. The time was 8:42 a.m. Central Time on Tuesday, September 11th, 2001. In the next 5 minutes, Adam noticed that every plane that communicated with the air traffic control got the same response: stand by. He also noticed that the controller sounded somewhat distressed. It didn't take long before he learned the reason.
All traffic, Albuquerque Center. We will be vectoring each one of you to land in an airport nearest to your current location. Stay tuned for further instructions.
Adam looked at his co-pilot, Keith. They both realized that something was wrong. "What do you think is happening?" Keith asked. "I have no idea." Adam was trying to imagine what could have happened that would cause the FAA to force all air traffic in their area to land immediately, but he couldn't think of a single reason. He didn't have to think too long.
Albuquerque Center, I'm going to be short. We are told that 1 or 2 airplanes have been hijacked, and at least one of them crashed into the World Trade Center. There are possibly more hijacked planes in the air. We don't know anything more at this point. Make sure you secure your cockpit doors and do not let anyone in the cockpit until you land. Stand by for vectors to your nearest airport.
Adam and Keith looked at each other silently. They were digesting what they had just heard in disbelief. They didn't say a word. Adam broke the silence first. "It's going to get pretty busy here soon. I'm going to make an announcement. Keep listening to ATC." "Roger." Adam pressed the overhead intercom button and waited. All intercom phones beeped. A flight attendant at the back picked up one of them. Adam decided not to share what he knew yet. He told her that they are being requested to land at the nearest airport and that he was going to make an announcement. He then pressed the PA button to make an announcement to the entire cabin.
Folks, this is your captain speaking. We were just asked by air traffic control to land in the nearest airport. We don't have too much detail, and we will let you know more when we know more. There is no problem with the plane, so you don't have to worry. We are perfectly safe. I'm going to turn on the seatbelt sign in preparation for landing. Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin for landing.
He then pushed the seatbelt sign button. Then he turned towards his co-pilot. "Can you lock the cockpit door?" Keith unbuckled his harness, got out of his seat, walked to the door, and locked it. Albuquerque Air Traffic Control Center was guiding all airplanes towards different airports. Some of them had pretty short runways, he was thinking. Finally, ATC called their flight.
Southwest 783, descend to 240 at pilot's discretion. Turn right heading 350. You will be landing in Amarillo today. Expect landing at runway 4. Contact Albuquerque Center at 124.85.
Adam pushed the radio button and acknowledged the instructions.
Albuquerque Center, Southwest 783, descending to 240, right heading 350, going to 124.85. Good day.
The last 2 words sounded inappropriate somehow. This was going to be anything but a good day. Air traffic communications were very busy. Never in history were all planes forced to land at the same time. Many planes were kept in holding patterns until they could land. 20 minutes later, Southwest 783 touched the runway at Amarillo. Most of the traffic at the Amarillo airport is military. Commercial flights are rare at that airport. Due to some heavy military aircraft that use the airport, runways 4 and 22 are very long at 13,000 feet. It allows B-52 and B-2 bombers to land and take off there, as well as large cargo planes such as the C-5A Galaxy and C-17, and KC-135 and KC-10 refueling tankers. Due to the long runway, landing was a piece of cake, even under the stressful conditions of that fateful morning. Air traffic controllers were too busy with directing all air traffic to the nearest airport that they didn't have time to provide more details on what had happened that day. On top of that, they weren't sure themselves. They have heard bits and pieces of information, some conflicting. They heard that another plane could have crashed into the Pentagon. They heard that there was another plane still in the air, which was headed towards the White House. So they focused on getting a tremendous number of planes on the ground safely and as quickly as possible. Given the hectic nature of air traffic communications, Adam and Keith didn't have time to say anything to the passengers or even to the rest of the crew. Even if they wanted to, they didn't know more than what they were told initially, and they felt that the information was too unreliable and inaccurate to share. Once on the ground, they started taxiing to the terminal, but given the unusually high number of planes that landed in Amarillo and the small size of the terminal, they had to stop and wait for a gate to be available to let the passengers disembark the plane. At this time, they thought, they could share what they knew with the passengers. As soon as they stopped, waiting for the gate, Adam took to the microphone and told the passengers exactly what he was told by ATC. He chose his words carefully and made sure the passengers understood that the information may be incomplete and inaccurate. Finally, they were able to taxi to the gate and let the passengers disembark the plane. Adam was the last person to leave the Boeing 737 after completing the shutdown checklist. As he walked out of the sky bridge, he saw the passengers at the gate staring at the big TV screen in disbelief, where CNN was showing live images and earlier clips from the attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. It all felt surreal to him. He started looking around the terminal and saw an area where flight crews were gathering, so he walked there, pulling his roller bag behind him. When he arrived, he saw many of the pilots arguing over what they thought was happening. He sat near an America jet pilot whose badge identified him as Rob. "Where were you flying?" Rob asked Adam. "Vegas," Adam replied. "You?" "Los Angeles." "This is pretty crazy, huh?" Adam took out his mobile phone and called the Southwest Operations Center. The line was busy. Every pilot who just landed was probably calling them, he thought to himself. His main worry right now was the passengers. This was not San Francisco, New York, Dallas, or Los Angeles airport. This was a tiny airport with almost no amenities. His passengers were stuck there, and there was no way to tell for how long. The nation was in chaos. This appeared to have been a very sophisticated terror attack, and was going to take days, if not weeks, before things could go back to normal. "We may stay here for a while," he said with a low voice to Rob. "That's just great," Rob said. "I'm stuck here in the middle of nowhere." "I have an idea," Adam said to him. "Our flight was going to Las Vegas. Maybe we can rent a bus or two to take the passengers to Vegas. It should be around a 15-hour drive, but I bet they would prefer that over staying here God knows how long." "That's not such a bad idea," Rob said. He took out his phone and called the America Jet Operations Center to get permission to do the same. He wasn't luckier than Adam. All lines appeared to be busy. Adam realized that calling the operations center right now to get permission to rent a bus was a waste of their time. They were dealing with much more urgent matters than that. We are just one flight. They have to take care of 500 planes that were suddenly all grounded in different airports around the country. I'm not going to bother them with that, he decided. Instead of trying to call the Southwest Operations Centers again, he dialed 411 and asked the operator for a number for a charter bus company in Amarillo. He then called the number he received. While waiting for someone to pick up, he looked at the passengers list. There were 87 passengers on that flight that needed to be in Las Vegas today if they were all willing to take the bus. Someone answered on the other side of the line. Adam explained that he had 87 passengers to drive to Las Vegas. After a short discussion, he was told that he would need 2 buses and that the total cost would be close to $4,700. They did have those buses available, but he needed to commit to them right then. It didn't take him long to decide. He committed. He knew that he had enough credit available on his credit card, so he gave the charter bus company his card details. And then Adam remembered to call his wife in Irving, Texas. She was somewhat worried, but not too much, as she realized that the terror attacks took place at the East Coast and not in the part of the country where her husband was flying that morning. She was only worried that he would land safely, which he did. He told her that he rented the buses, worried that she might be upset that he charged it to their credit card, but she didn't even ask. All she said was, "I'm proud of you. That was great thinking." After hanging up the call with his wife, Adam walked to the gate desk, and on his way he ran into Rob again, who asked him if he decided whether he was renting a bus or not. "I already did," Adam said to him. He wasn't condescending when he said that. He said that as a matter of fact. "How did you manage to get a hold of your operations center?" Rob asked, surprised. "I tried to reach the AJ Operations Center ever since I got off the plane, but the lines are busy all the time." "I didn't," Adam replied. "It was busy there too, and I realized that they have much more important things to do right now than to deal with this." "So what did you use to book the bus?" "My personal credit card," was Adam's response, which was met with a puzzled look. "How do you know that they will pay you back?" "It doesn't matter," Adam said. "What matters right now is that my passengers will make it to Vegas as quickly and as comfortably as possible." "If I did that, there will be hell to pay," Rob replied, with a sigh. Adam turned to the gate agent, who had nothing to do since no flights were landing or taking off anymore. He asked the gate agent if he could make an announcement. Passengers of Southwest 783, this is your captain speaking. We don't know how long we're going to be here, and I realize this is inconvenient for you. We rented 2 buses that will be here in approximately 2 hours to take you to Las Vegas. Please go to the baggage claim area and take your baggage if you haven't already done so, and meet us here at Gate 6 by 11 a.m. Thank you." Adam spotted his co-pilot, Keith, and the head flight attendant, Sharon. He signaled to them to come to the gate desk. They both heard his announcement and were making their way back to the gate as soon as they heard it. They weren't surprised by it. Sharon had a passenger manifest as well. Adam asked her to stay there and check in all the passengers of Flight 783. Passengers started arriving at the gate, and Sharon checked them on her list, asking them to stay close. The gate area was packed with passengers from all the flights that had arrived at that gate that morning. The passengers thanked Sharon, Adam, and Keith and praised Southwest Airlines for being so thoughtful. Adam didn't bother to tell anyone that he was responsible for the buses and that he paid for them out of his own pocket. In fact, he preferred that the passengers think it was Southwest Airlines, his beloved employer, who rented those buses. Over the next 60 minutes, Sharon repeated the announcement twice more and kept checking in passengers who came back to Gate 6. At 11 a.m., there were only 7 passengers who had not yet checked in with her. Sharon logged into the reservation system through one of the gate computer terminals. 4 of the passengers were members of the same family and had the same contact telephone number. The other 3 were separate. She proceeded to call each of the numbers. The family of 4, as well as one of the other passengers, were all having late breakfast at the terminal restaurants and didn't hear or didn't pay attention to the announcements that Adam and Sharon made. They were interested in riding the bus and made their way back to the terminal. One of the passengers had family in Amarillo and was going to be picked up by them, so he passed on the bus offer. Sharon couldn't get a hold of the last passenger. She asked the gate agent to make a terminal-wide announcement, asking that passenger to return to Gate 6. 12 minutes later, that passenger checked in as well. Sharon told Adam that all but one of the passengers and crew members were going to take the buses and were already at the gate area. The only passenger not there was the one who was on his way to his family in Amarillo and wasn't interested in riding the bus, but he was accounted for as well. Meanwhile, the charter bus company had called Adam to let him know that the buses were waiting for him at the curb outside the terminal building. Passengers of Southwest Flight 783, the buses are waiting for us outside the terminal. Let's go there and continue the trip to Las Vegas. All 7 crew members helped guide the passengers towards the buses. Sharon and Keith stood by the doors of the buses and checked in all passengers one more time. Adam and the rest of the crew helped them store their baggage in the bus's baggage compartments. One passenger was missing, but showed up 5 minutes later after going to the restroom. Adam boarded one of the buses and asked the driver for the PA microphone. "Hi, folks," he said, trying to sound as cheerful as he could under the circumstances. "I'm sorry about the inconvenience this morning. These buses will take you to Las Vegas today to complete your trip. You should arrive there late at night, but today. We just don't know how long before air traffic can resume. Some of us will stay here with the plane. I wish you a pleasant rest of your trip as much as possible, and let's pray for those involved in what happened today." The passengers on board the bus nodded their heads. As much as they were grateful that Southwest Airlines took care of them, the events of the day and the fear, uncertainty, and doubt weighed heavy on them. The atmosphere was somber. Adam got off the first bus and boarded the second bus to make a similar announcement. The reaction was the same. When he got off the second bus, he turned to the crew. "Keith, I need you to stay with me here to fly that plane whenever we get the clearance. Sharon, regulations require that we have at least one flight attendant on board, even if we don't have any passengers, so I'll ask you to stay with us as well. Now, we need at least one flight attendant on every bus to make sure that the passengers are comfortable. We promised them we would take care of them until they reach Las Vegas, so let's do just that. The rest, you can either stay here with us or go on the buses. It's your choice." The other 4 flight attendants decided to take the buses to Vegas with the passengers. It wasn't because they didn't want to stay in Amarillo with the rest of the crew. It was because they felt the obligation to assure their passengers' comfort until they arrived safely in Las Vegas. They felt it was a commitment they made to the passengers, and they were going to keep it. "It's been a privilege working with you today," Adam said as the 4 of them were boarding the buses. He realized that those sounded like the last words said by the Titanic musical quartet right before she went under. They shook hands as the 4 flight attendants boarded the buses. Keith, Sharon, and Adam stayed there a little longer until the buses pulled away and started the 12-plus hour drive to Las Vegas. They then headed back into the terminal. The time was 11:47. The 2 buses made a couple of stops along the way to eat, refuel, and refresh. They stopped at Albuquerque and Flagstaff. The third and last stop was at the McCarran International Airport in Las Vegas. They arrived there at 1:13 a.m. Adam, Sharon, and Keith stayed at the Amarillo terminal, awaiting instructions from the FAA and the Southwest Airlines Operations Center. In the evening, they started looking for a hotel room. Unfortunately, the immediate Amarillo airport area didn't have enough hotel rooms to accommodate all the passengers and crew members that had to stay there that night or the night after. Keith suggested they take a taxi to a hotel that might be further away from the airport, which they did. The three of them checked into the hotel. Over the next 2 days, Adam was in contact with the Southwest Operations Center. The picture became clearer as to the magnitude of what happened that day. The images on TV were devastating. There was an eerie silence in the air, which was free of aviation traffic. By Thursday morning, new airport security measures were in place at all airports around the country, and Adam and the rest of his crew were asked to return to the airport and fly their plane back to Dallas Love Field. The airport was not set up to handle the amount of traffic departing that morning, but eventually they departed on their flight back with an empty plane. Although it was only 2 days since landing in Amarillo, Adam felt as if he hadn't flown in months. An interview with Adam. Question: why didn't you wait to get permission from the Southwest Airlines Operations Center before booking those buses? Answer: first of all, they were busy with more important things. Second, my passengers needed to get to Las Vegas. I couldn't think of a better way to get them there, so I just did it. Look, I don't need company permission to turn right or left when I fly, right? I believe the company trusts me enough with making decisions that improve the safety and comfort of our passengers as well. Question: were you worried that Southwest would not pay you back for the buses? Answer: not really. And it's not that I had $4,700 to spare in my account. But I've never had a case where I did something that I wasn't authorized to do and was reprimanded for it. I know how important taking care of our customers is to the company, so I did what was right for our company. I'm sure they would pay me back. And even if they don't, I still did the right thing for the company. Question: why didn't you let the passengers know that you used your own credit card to get them to their destination? Answer: why does it matter? Eventually, Southwest would pay me back, which means that they paid for it. Either way, what's important is not that those 87 passengers think that Adam is a great pilot. What's important is that they think that Southwest is a great airline. An interview with Rob, the America Jet pilot. Question: why didn't you book buses for your passengers as well? Answer: we have very strict policies about expense reimbursement at America Jet. When I heard that it cost Adam $4,700 to get the buses, I thought that there was no way I could do the same and not get in trouble. I believe the maximum I can charge without pre-approval and get reimbursed for is $1,000. So I tried reaching the AJ Operations Center to get permission to do that, as the policies require, but I couldn't get a hold of them. It's really out of my hands at that point. I've heard of others in the company that really got in trouble for exceeding their expense limits, and they didn't get reimbursed. Why would I want to do that? A final note about this story. Airline customer service has declined over the last decade or two. It is unexplainable considering the fact that the mission statements of two of the largest airline carriers in the U.S. read, "Every day we help unite the world by connecting people to the moments that matter most." Or, "Provide safe, dependable, and friendly air transportation to our customers, along with numerous related services. We're dedicated to make every flight you take with us something special." The uniqueness of Southwest Airlines comes from another statement made in their About Southwest page. Our people are our single greatest strength and most enduring long-term competitive advantage, said by Gary Kelly, CEO, Southwest Airlines. Good customer service cannot be mandated through policies. It will be delivered through empowered employees. This story is dedicated to the victims of 9/11.